Naruto, the ninja who picks up ultimate powers. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 61. Asuma and Sunset Hong, after being stunned, also looked clear. Although Natsuki was very clear in his heart, he still looked at Kakashi with a puzzled expression. What is it? Hearing Natsuki's question, Kakashi glanced at Natsuki, muttered for a moment, and spoke. Your words, now you know their purpose should be the 9 tails in Naruto's body. Hearing this, Xiaomu's expression moved slightly, and he said in a low voice, yes? Turning around, Natsuki walked in the direction of the village, and no change in expression could be seen on his face. I still have tasks, so I'll take a step first. Swish. The figure flickered, and Natsuki had already left here. Looking at the direction Natsuki left, Kakashi looked a little helpless and spoke. Well, his reaction was also expected by me. After all, his father died in the incident 12 years ago, and thanks to the fact that he was able to become close friends with Naruto, this instrument was far more than his peers. Sunset Hong and Asuma nodded in approval and spoke. Presumably he understands very well that Naruto is Naruto, and the 9 tails are the 9 tails. So, many times, misunderstandings are wonderful. Walking on the street, in front of Natsuki's eyes, there was a light curtain with 3 purple cards on it. A chakra card, a piece of water-done ninjutsu, and the art of the great dragon bullet. A magic mirror turns around. It's a good harvest. Xiaomu smiled slightly and said, the ghost mackerel contributed 2 purple cards, it's okay. In the battle just now, the 2 of Uchiha Itachi and Dry Persimmon Oni dropped these 3 cards, which is not bad. After closing the system panel, Xiaomu had a thoughtful look on his face. At that moment, Uchiha really wanted to kill me after all. I am just an opponent that Sasuke thinks, not Kyu, and it makes sense that he wants to kill me to stimulate Sasuke. At the moment when Uchiha Weasel kicked the flying dried persimmon ghost mackerel, he really wanted to kill Natsuki. That piercing killing intent is not a joke. If you think about it, it's normal for Uchiha to do this. The brotherhood of the Uchiha family is really strong and deformed. For the people of this family, Natsuki will not evaluate too much. Just as Natsuki was walking, a figure appeared in front of him, Jiraiya-sama. Looking at each other, Natsuki's face had a puzzled look. Is there something going on? The person who stopped him was none other than Jiraiya. Looking at Xiaomu with a serious face, Zilai also spoke. My friend, there is something I want to tell you very important. Looking up at Jiraiya, Natsuki asked, what's going on? Do you want Jiraiya-sama to tell me in person? After pondering for a while, he organized the language, and then spoke. Now Konoha's power has been greatly weakened, although the village of Tsunade has announced its surrender. But as the leader of the village ninja, Naruto has died, and the village lacks a leader. Hearing this, Xiaomu had something strange in his heart. Is it to put himself on the throne and become the 5th generation of Hokage? But this is unlikely. After all, he was too young, and he was only 12 years old now. While Natsuki was guessing, Jiraiya continued. Originally, as a Hokage candidate who had been cultivated before the 3rd generation, you should take over the position of the 5th generation Hokage. What do you think? Do you want to succeed the 5 generations of Hokage and become the leader of the village? After speaking, Zilai also looked at Natsuki with deep eyes, waiting for his answer. Shaking his head directly, Natsuki spoke. No, now I'm still too young. I have only been a ninja for half a year, becoming a 5th generation Hokage or something. Too reluctant to force me. Jiraiya-sama, you are more suitable than me. Hearing Natsuki's answer, a smile appeared on Jiraiya's face. I guessed you would say that, so I vetoed this decision. I came to you to ask you. Are you interested in finding a beautiful sister with me? Speaking of beauty, big sister, the smile on Zilai's face brings a hint of lewd color. With a slightly strange glance at Jiraiya, Natsuki took a few steps back without a trace. Nope, I'm underage, I have a girlfriend, and I'm going to do a job find a big sister this kind of thing. Only suitable for Zilai adults. You have been a single dog for many years to do. I thank you for not being sensitive. When the words fell, Xiaomu's figure walked forward quickly, completely ignoring some confused Zilai. Is he really stupid? What beautiful big sister? Pretty is beautiful, but it is a 50-year-old beautiful woman who can be his milk. When Xiaomu was about to walk around the corner, Zilai also reacted, and his face turned green. Did the single dog eat your rice? Abominable little ghost. Hearing this, Natsuki waved his hand and disappeared directly at the intersection. Turning his head and looking at the Hokage rock not far away, Natsuki had a smile on his face and secretly spoke. The future 5th generation of Hokage, Slug Gong, Lord Tsunade? After this Hokage takes office, the entire atmosphere of Konoha will be completely new. For a civilian genius like him, without power, it will be excellent. Except for a few times when some people do things, they are all good. Time flies. 3 days later, sitting under a large tree at the 3rd training ground, Natsuki looked at a book in his hand and was waiting for Hinata's arrival. In the past 3 days, he has carried out a B-level mission, and he just returned yesterday and made an appointment with Hinata to practice here today. Actually, it's more about dating. Natsuki-kun. Hinata's voice came, causing Natsuki's gaze to look away from the book and at Hinata, who was running towards him. When Hinata came over, Natsuki spoke gently. Don't be in such a hurry. Looking at Hinata, Natsuki reached out and brushed the hair in front of her forehead, with a gentle look on her face. After a break, Hinata asked, Natsuki-kun, I've been waiting for a long time. Nodding and pulling Hinata to sit down beside him, Natsuki spoke. What are the tasks of your 8th class in the past 2 days? Hearing this, Hinata spoke. Rebuild the village. Teacher Hong's words seemed to have gone on an advanced task. Saying this, looking at Natsuki with some concern, Hinata asked, "Isn't the mission that Xiaomujuan is performing also dangerous?" Shaking his head, Natsuki looked calm. "Not really, now my strength is much more powerful than before, Hinata. My current strength is enough to become a Hokage." With a look of adoration in his eyes, Hinata asked, "Xiaomujuan, it's really powerful." Natsuki shook his head and smiled. "This kind of power, if it is now, is only enough for the time being, but it may not be in the future. For the sake of my mother and you, for the future, I have to become more powerful." Gently leaning on Natsuki's body, Hinata spoke. "I believe Natsuki-kun." Episode 62. Training Ground Number 3. Hinata fell asleep leaning on Natsuki's shoulder, sleeping very quietly. Recently, the time he and Hinata spent alone has dropped significantly, so although the two of them came here in the language of training, they just tacitly agreed that they did not say anything about practice, and they enjoyed such a good time. Quite a happy and wonderful time. Turning his head slightly to glance at Hinata's sleeping face, Natsuki's face had a spoiled smile. "It's a nice day like this. Although improving 1 point strength will provide more protection when going out on a mission, it is not a good thing to train tightly, and occasionally it is necessary to relax, and the combination of work and rest is the best." Natsuki didn't say. After all, he was open. But Hinata's words, "It's different." After training tense for a month, she encountered Konoha's collapse plan, and her nerves were tense during this time. Otherwise, with Hinata's attachment to him, it would not be long before she fell asleep on Natsuki's shoulder. After gently holding Hinata's body into her arms so that she could sleep in a more comfortable position, Natsuki picked up a book again and read it. This book is the novel written by Jiraiya, Root Nature, Shinobi Den. The protagonist's name is Naruto, and this book is quite difficult to find. This is still a novel that he found by chance. Don't say, young Jiraiya is still an idealist, and something can be seen in this book. Of course, the current self must have changed compared with when he was young, but the things in his bones have definitely not changed. For example, good color. Time passed little by little. Natsuki read quietly, while Hinata slept soundly in his arms. With a sweet, happy smile on her little face, from time to time I can hear her whisper, and Natsuki-kun with various emotions can hear Natsuki's eyes looking at her more and more gentle. When the girl you like is all about you in and out of her dreams, you will definitely be the happiest person in this world. Such a girl is worth cherishing. It's evening. Natsuki sighed, followed Hinata, and headed towards the Hyuga clan. After a day at training ground number 3, it was time for the two to go home. "Tomorrow, I'm going on a mission again, so we'll meet again in a few days." Natsuki looked at Hinata with gentle gaze, and spoke. "Sorry, Hinata, for now, I don't have much time to accompany you for the time being. And after this time, I will spend more time with you." Hearing Natsuki's words, Hinata shook his head with a smile. "I'll be fine, Natsuki-kun, you're fighting for the future now, so I know." Speaking of this, Hinata's tone was a little lower. It's very weak and can't help Natsuki-kun, but I definitely don't allow myself to drag Natsuki-kun's hind legs, so I will cheer you behind Xiaomujuan and keep cheering you on." With a gentle smile, Natsuki reached out and rubbed Hinata's little head. "Well, I see." Hinata stood behind him. It was no big deal. Natsuki didn't think it was bad. On the contrary, he felt that Hinata, who could say this, was unusually reliable and cute. After a while, Natsuki left the Hyuga clan's clan land. "At present, you still have to work hard to make money." The next day, the Hokage building, outside the mission office. While leaving here, Natsuki looked at the A-grade mission scroll in his hand, his brows furrowed. Search mission? This time, the task picked up is an A-level search mission. The target of the search was no one else, it was the Yakushi Pocket, who played a very important role in the previous Konoha collapse plan, and it seems that when the Yakushi Pocket left, he took away the incredible information. Medicine Master? A trace of essence flashed in Natsuki's gaze. Tracking down the Medicine Master is better than tracking down the Big Snake Pill, the current Medicine Master, but followed by the Big Snake Pill. This task, how to see that it belongs to the Dark Department, right? There are Diao people who want to murder Shin. After receiving this task, this sentence flashed in Natsuki's heart. After putting away the scroll, Natsuki's expression remained unchanged, but there was a sneer in his heart. It seems that some people in the secret have already started to do things. This task is a little tricky, but the other party may not know much. I have the advantage of plot in my mind here. The reason why he did not refuse this task was because, this mission, there is no danger. If you want to find the Big Snake Pill and the Medicine Master, it is better to go directly to the short book street and follow Jiraiya and Tsunade, and the other party will naturally come to the door. Not only will there be no trouble, but you can even eat a wave of high-quality cards, be able to meet with the future 5th-generation Hokage in advance, and be able to get the reward for this task, so why not? Out of the Hokage building, Natsuki's figure moved straight to the house. Although he was sure that the secret man would not do anything to his mother, Natsuki still had to make some preparations just in case. Leave a Flying Thunder God technique in his mother's hands, so that if there is an accident, he can also ensure that his mother will not have problems. Half an hour later, at the gate of Konoha village, Natsuki registered with one of the two 10,000-year gatekeepers, Gang Ziti, and left Konoha directly. Short Book Street. This is a famous entertainment place in the Land of Fire. Casinos, hot springs, food, and customs are all famous here. It took a day, and Natsuki arrived here unhurriedly, because he is not in a hurry. According to memory, after Orochimaru and Tsunade met, there was still a week left, not to mention that Jiraiya and Naruto Uzumaki were looking for Tsunade for another few days. He is slowly rushing here now, and there is still time. Is this Short Book Street? With a hint of curiosity on his face, Natsuki walked towards the Short Book Street. I've been in this world for so long, and honestly, I haven't officially visited such a street. Although my heart is full of Hinata, it doesn't hurt to take a few more glances at the flower world. While walking in the Short Book Street, Natsuki's perception also radiated, sweeping through these shops and feeling the presence of chakra. Although there are occasionally a chakra breath or two, they are too weak. It is completely impossible to be a chakra of the level of Tsunade and Jiraiya, let alone a chakra of a person like Naruto Uzumaki. Not long after, when passing a tavern, 3 huge chakras appeared in his perception. Oh yes. A smile appeared on Xiaomu's face, and he spoke. Did you find it? I'm really lucky. While speaking, Natsuki walked directly into the store, and with a slight turn of his eyes, he found his goal. Jiraiya and Tsunadeheim. Episode 63. Welcome. Walking into the store, the staff in the store spoke, and at the same time looked at Natsuki with some doubts. So young. It's not like being 20 years old, and there are no adults to take with you, so if you enter the tavern, there are some inappropriate. It's just that because Xiaomu's height is already more than 1 meter 6, in this world, he is taller than some adults, so the clerk is not sure whether Xiaomu is an adult for a while. I have elders in it. After seeing the table of Jiraiya, Natsuki smiled at the clerk and said, "Can you let me in?" The clerk nodded and spoke. "Inside please." Seeing that Xiaomu is extraordinary, since everyone has said that there are elders inside, the clerk will naturally not stop it. "Thank you." After casually thanking him, Natsuki's gaze once again fell on the table where he was also there, and he walked straight over. The goal was very clear, so that people knew at a glance who he was looking for. Sensing that Natsuki came over, sitting facing Natsuki, he saw his Tsunade, his brows furrowed, and his eyes were slightly sharp. Huh? Sensing Tsunade's strangeness, he couldn't help but turn his head. At this time, Natsuki had already come to the front of the table. "Yo Jiraiya-sama, Naruto." Seeing Natsuki appear, Jiraiya's face showed a hint of surprise, and a trace of essence appeared in his eyes. Before he could speak, Naruto Uzumaki looked at Natsuki with a look of surprise and surprise. "Friend, why did you guys come over?" Looking at Naruto Uzumaki, Natsuki's gaze swept over Tsunade and Shizune beside her, and spoke. "Well, today I received a task to send me to my death, then I listened to the village and came here, find dead." Hearing Natsuki's words, Naruto Uzumaki was stunned, and Jiraiya's brows were tightly furrowed. Xiaomu's words made him instinctively feel a trace of unease, and from Xiaomu's words, he can also feel that Xiaomu's current mood is very bad. "Friend," with solemn eyes, he also looked at Xiaomu, who had already sat in the vacant seat. "What's going on?" The reaction was flat. Xiaomu casually took a pair of chopsticks, took a small dried fish and ate it, and said, "Jiraiya-sama, you first and let's talk about things with Tsunade-sama, I'll eat something now." After putting down the wine glass in his hand and glancing at Tsunade, his gaze once again fell on Natsuki's body and asked again, "Now, your affairs are more important, and you must know that you are also important to the village." Syllable. Putting down his chopsticks, Natsuki looked at Jiraiya, and there was no wave in his eyes. "The medicine man Jiraiya-sama, you should know, right? He is now following Orochimaru, becoming Orochimaru's right and left arm, and I have been tasked with searching for the exact traces of the medicine master's pocket A-level tasks belong to the dark department." With his eyes sinking, Natsuki spoke. "Although I have some strength, there is only one person, not only to face an elite upper ninja level medicine master, but also to deal with one of the legendary 3 ninja Orochimaru. This task, why don't you just ask me to sacrifice my head to the village?" This is a lie. With Xiaomu's current strength, this kind of thing could not happen at all. The reason why I said this is simply to give the main messenger behind it, directly saying that it is the object of Natsuki's suspicion, Tuanzong, pouring dirty water, and buckling a large black cauldron. After all, he is also a candidate for Hokage. Combined with what Danzo always knows, the ambition to become a Hokage will definitely be suspected by Jiraiya. Sure enough, after Xiaomu's voice fell, Jiraiya's face instantly became cold, his face changed for a while, and finally he returned to calm again. "Friend, knowing that you are likely to be defeated, then why did you take this task?" Zilai also looked at Natsuki and asked. Hearing this, everyone's eyes, including Tsunade and Shizune, were on Natsuki, waiting for his answer. The only Uzumaki Naruto, who was confused about the situation, looked confused. A gentle smile appeared on Natsuki's face. "Well, there are my relatives in the village, and people I like. This task that is directly required, if you don't do it, you can't do it in case of what if I'm lucky enough to escape from the hands of the Great Snake Pill and the Medicine Master?" Click. In Jilei's hand, a crack was pinched out of the wine glass, and he spoke. "This mission is over, friend. After that, I will explain this matter to the village, involving the task of Orochimaru. Now you alone can't complete it. At least cooperate with the ninja squad." A chill appeared on his face, and Zilai also spoke. "This task, sent to the person you have, he did not force your qualifications." Hearing this, Natsuki nodded. "I see, however, if there is an adult Jiraiya, maybe he can complete this task, right? Moreover, I have found the traces of the Great Snake Pill and the Medicine Master's pocket." As he spoke, Natsuki's gaze looked at Tsunade. Noticing Natsuki's gaze, Tsunade smiled. "Huh? Little ghost, you mean, do you want the clues on me? Although I did see the big snake pill today, it was just a general reminiscence, just saying hello. Syllable. With his hands propped up on the table, Natsuki said with a smile. You're lying, Tsunade-sama. Taking a sip of soju, Tsunade asked with a look of interest. Tell me about it. Zilai was also not in a hurry, quietly watching the change in the situation, with an expectant color in his eyes, looking at Xiaomu. With calm eyes, Xiaomu said lightly, when I carry out my mission, time permitting, I will be fully prepared, whether it is C-level or D-level. This A-level mission involves my little life. Of course, I will pay more attention to it. Speaking of this, Xiaomu paused and spoke. The third generation of Hokage died from the ghoul seal, and the soul was devoured by the god of death according to the intelligence of the Dark Department. Before the death of the third generation of Hokage, he had restrained the big snake pill for a period of time, that is to say, the ghoul seal played a role in the body of the big snake pill. Combined with the way Orochimaru left Konoha at that time, he should have been injured, and a part of his soul should have been devoured by the ghoul seal. Turning his gaze to Tsunade's body, Natsuki continued, this kind of injury, if there is anyone else in this world who can treat him, there is only one person, and that is Tsunade-sama, so he will definitely come to you. And if I want to find the medicine master, I might as well find the big snake pill first, and to find the big snake pill, I only need to find Tsunade-sama. After taking a bite of the dish, Natsuki continued, compared to finding a big snake pill that the divine dragon can't see the head and tail, the legendary big fat sheep is easier to find. Above, it's all. Episode 64. Natsuki's voice fell. Except for Naruto Uzumaki, who was still confused, whether it was Jiraiya, Tsunade, or Shizune, they all showed surprised and appreciative eyes. Very powerful. This kind of search thinking is new to all three. After all, if the current ninja world wants to track anyone, it either relies on various secret techniques or animals like ninja dogs to track them, and there has never been a search for targets like Natsuki. However, it turns out that Natsuki's search technique is very useful. Great judgment. With a smile on his face, Tsunade spoke. Little ghost, but you're late. I didn't promise to treat the big snake pill, so he's gone. Hearing this, Zilai also frowned and did not say anything. Xiaomu was stunned for a moment, and then with regret on his face, he said helplessly, is it? That's a real pity. Although he knew that Tsunade was lying, but this time, it was not the time for Natsuki to dismantle people's houses. He has already played his highlight moment, and if he continues to reason, it will be too perfect. In that case, it would not be real. Whether Tsunade and Jiraiya believed Natsuki's last words or not, at least Natsuki couldn't continue, and the rest was left to Jiraiya and Naruto Uzumaki. The things ordered by Natsuki have already come up, and naturally they have begun to eat. His eyes looked at Tsunade from time to time, and then at the two of them. The same 50 years old, but this appearance gap is really huge. Natsuki's matter was over, and now he began to invite Tsunade. For the communication between the two, Xiaomu listened to his ears, did not care, did not interrupt, just ate his own things. However, Naruto Uzumaki was quite concerned about Tsunade's words. Bang! When Naruto Uzumaki stepped on the table, Natsuki, who had already expected it, carried his own food, watched speechlessly as Tsunade and Naruto Uzumaki made a bet, and then ran outside the store. Standing in the doorway of the tavern, Natsuki looked at Tsunade and Naruto Uzumaki, who were fighting against each other. A battle with an extremely disparity in strength. Zilai also smiled and took Xiaomu's words. Well, after all, not everyone has such a talent as you. Natsuki didn't speak. His eyes looked at Tsunade. She's really poor. Not a single card dropped. However, in the combat state, the drop rate of cards is higher. Maybe a card will drop at this moment. The battle begins. In less than a minute, the battle is over. With just one finger, the battle had already been solved, and the corners of Natsuki's eyes twitched. Although I expected it, Naruto, this guy, is it too weak? As a disciple of the totem mortal, Naruto now is completely inadequate. While speaking, Xiaomu's ears, the voice of the system, sounded unexpectedly. Shoot, purple cards have been detected to have fallen within 100 meters of the host. Is it picked up? Hearing this, Xiaomu's heart can be described as quite satisfied. Pick. Successfully picked up, obtained the purple body art monster power fist card, has been stored. Monster fist. One of the most prominent combat abilities on Tsunade. This physical skill is almost Tsunade's only combat ability. After all, she is one of the most famous medical ninjas, and ninjutsu is mostly medical ninjutsu. And forbidden techniques such as Yin Seal and 100 How art were also developed to assist the monster fist. So dropping this strange power boxing skill card is still very good and suitable for Natsuki. Although his strength is also very great after breaking through 1,000 physical skills, it is still not enough to see compared to Tsunade's strange power and the muscular men of Yunin village. With the monster fist, this is solved. His speed, in the case of the thunder escape instantaneous technique, was no less than that of the people of Yunin village. After the strength has a strange power fist, it is even more than. In other words, if you simply compare your strength with Lei Ying, Xiaomu feels that he can beat Lei Ying out. On the street, Zilai also heard Natsuki's words, and did not care at all. After all, the opponent is Tsunade, such a result is very normal. That child can get benefits in the hands of Sanran? Hearing this, Natsuki smiled and said, I think I can. Glancing at Xiaomu, the corner of Zilai's mouth twitched. You are different. After all, you are a super genius who will become stronger if you cultivate casually. Compared to the talent of a ninja, even if it is a 4th generation Hokage, it feels worse than you. Shaking his head, Natsuki neither admitted nor denied. He's nothing more than an opener. To put it bluntly, there is no system. If you embark on the path of ninja, he is a waste material. There is nothing to be proud of. Since he also said this kind of words, just listen to it, don't put it in your heart. People know themselves. Jiraiya-sama, do you need me to wait for you here for a while? Looking at Jiraiya, he asked. I don't think you should be able to bring Tsunade-sama back to Konoha for a while. Nodding, Z-Light also directly admitted. After all, after so many years, Tsunade's mentality has changed somewhat, which is also normal. Saying that, Z-Light also looked at Xiaomu and spoke. Friend, although I know that you are very obsessed with Konoha, I want you to stay here for a while longer and go back with us. Although Tsunade said that she rejected the Great Snake Pill, but her words were not finished. The Great Snake Pill is not such a simple person to give up. Z-Light also spoke. I'm worried that something has changed. If Tsunade at that time, we will have to face 2-3 forbearances. Hearing Jiraiya's words, Xiaomu was stunned for a moment, and then nodded. I see. After speaking, he did not stand on the side with an indifferent face, did not say more, but there were some thoughts in his heart. The world of ninjas is really firm in faith. Except for a few, the vast majority are able to abandon everything for their faith. If Tsunade really chooses to help Orochimaru, will he really be able to kill Tsunade? Probably can, probably not. It depends on Jiraiya's love for Tsunade. However, this situation will not happen. Tsunade's heart is like Spiegel, but because of the reasons involving Kato and Rope Tree, he is already confused for a while. From the time she asked Naruto Uzumaki why she was obsessed with Hokage, she had already made a choice in her heart. Making a bet with Naruto Uzumaki was just an excuse to give himself a reason to give up seeing Kato and Rope Tree. As for Natsuki, he wasn't worried about this kind of thing happening to Hinata. Here, he has to say that childhood is really important. Who is Hinata's faith? Natsuki can tell anyone quite confidently. It's yourself. That night, Natsuki and Tsunade stayed at a hotel together. Of course, he has more funds, so naturally he lives in a room alone. Time passed slowly. Episode 65. 5 days, fleeting. Hostel, Natsuki's room. Looking at the short book street outside the window, Natsuki's face was bored. After watching more, I feel like this. It's not as good as my own home. From this habit, Natsuki is a standard otaku. Although I like to see new things, after seeing it, I still want to stay in my own home and don't want to run around. This kind of personality, to say that it is an otaku personality, is also reasonable. Although the flower world is beautiful, don't be greedy. Bang bang. At this moment, Natsuki's door was suddenly knocked. Before Natsuki could react, Naruto Uzumaki's voice rang out. Friend, come out quickly. The big thing is not good, hurry up. Hearing Naruto Uzumaki's voice, Natsuki was stunned for a moment, and then a fine light flashed in his eyes. A week's time has arrived. Swish. As soon as the figure moved, Natsuki came to the door and opened the door directly. The moment he opened it, Natsuki saw Naruto Uzumaki with a worried face, and Jiraiya who carried the whole person as if he had been squeezed dry, and the three of them stood at Natsuki's door. Seeing Xiaomu open the door, Z-Light also looked serious, and said in a weak tone, Friend, emergency Tsunade, a person went to find the big snake pill. I have to stop him quickly, please. With a worried look on his face, Shizen spoke. Friend Kuan, please be sure to stop Tsunade-sama. Whether it is to treat Orochimaru or plan to fight alone, it is too reluctant for Tsunade-sama now, so please stop Tsunade-sama. As a squire who has been with Tsunade for a long time, he is silent and does not talk about strength, but his mind is definitely not bad. Hearing Jiraiya and Shizen's words, Natsuki glanced at the three people in front of him and spoke. Naruto, you come with me. After speaking, sensing the doubtful gazes of Jiraiya and Shizun, Natsuki explained. Naruto is special to the 5 generations Hokage with him. The 5th generation Hokage will definitely not betray Konoha. Z-Lei's eyes lit up, understood what Xiaomu meant, and spoke. I see Naruto, listen, you act with Natsuki, remember to listen to his orders, understood? This is an S-class mission. Naruto Uzumaki, who originally only knew that things were bad, but did not understand the specific situation, heard Jiraiya's words, and his face was shocked. SS-class quests? I don't understand anything else, but only Naruto Uzumaki, who knows quite well about the mission level. The whole person is spiritual. Really fake? Am I already able to perform S-class tasks? Fairy. Z-Lei's face was stunned, and he opened his mouth and reprimanded. Seriously Naruto, this task, you are assisting Natsuki, understand? The situation in the village is very bad. Whether you can achieve the last wish of the 3 generations of Hokage in the past depends on whether your mission can be successful and whether you can bring Tsunade back to Konoha. His face was instantly solemn, and when it came to the peace of the village and the last wish of the 3 generations of Hokage, Naruto Uzumaki's face was only firm. I'll definitely bring that mother-in-law back. At this time, Natsuki, who had changed his clothes and brought his own equipment, stood on the window. Naruto, let's go. Swish. When the words fell, Natsuki's figure flashed and disappeared directly at the window. Naruto Uzumaki quickly followed, climbing out of the window and quickly catching up with Natsuki's figure. Being in the air, Natsuki sensed Naruto Uzumaki following and didn't say anything more. Raising his hand to make a mark, the perception on Natsuki's body emanated. Kagura Shinkai. Airplanes. In an instant, the huge chakra perception directly burst out, covering the entire short book street in a blink of an eye, and also emanating from afar, and not long after, several chakras fell into Natsuki's perception. Has it already begun? Xiaomu's face changed slightly, and he spoke. Naruto, over here. After saying that, Natsuki's figure turned a corner and went directly towards the outside of the short book street. Naruto Uzumaki didn't say a word, and directly followed. Friend, what do I need from this task? Although he didn't quite understand, but what Jiraiya meant, Naruto Uzumaki still understood, and he almost 100% believed in Natsuki, his best friend. Maybe doing tasks with other people, Naruto Uzumaki will ask why, but when doing tasks with Natsuki, he won't. It doesn't matter if you don't understand how to do the task, just listen to Natsuki's. Naruto. Natsuki glanced at Naruto Uzumaki, and said with a serious face, later, we will face Orochimaru and Yakushi, and what you have to do is gamble your life to protect the future 5th generation Hokage of the village, that is, Tsunade-sama, understand? Turning his head, Naruto Uzumaki looked ahead and said with a serious face, I see, leave it to me. Although he didn't understand why such a strong mother-in-law Tsunade needed him to gamble his life to protect him. Boom. A figure flew upside down and fell to the ground, unable to stand up for a while. Tsunade's body was scarred, and he looked at the medicine master in front of him with an embarrassed face. My muscles are cut off. Panting, Tsunade's face had a solemn look. This guy is not an ordinary medical ninja. His medical ninjutsu is more like learning to cut the human body. Looking at Tsunade, who looked very miserable, an evil smile appeared on the medicine master's face. Now you're really embarrassed. I originally wanted to have a good chat with you again, but when that Jiraiya and his friend Jun are in the short book street, they still need to solve you as soon as possible. Raise your hand, hold a kunai, and stab it towards Tsunade. Your weaknesses, I also know. In his suffering is to hit Tsunade. So, a kunai shot directly towards the medicine master. What? The medicine master's expression changed, and he left the place in an instant. Who is? Yikes. The figures of Natsuki and Naruto Uzumaki instantly appeared in front of Tsunade. It's me. In the voice, there were no mood fluctuations. Natsuki looked directly at the medicine master's pocket, and spoke. See you again, Yakushi. Naruto Uzumaki, who was carried by Natsuki in his hand, saw the medicine master pocket with a confused face. Huh? Pocket senior? Friend, how could this be? Turning his head and wordlessly glancing at Naruto Uzumaki beside him, Natsuki spoke. Are you an idiot? Look at the forehead guard on his head. This guy, when he first started, was Orochimaru's subordinate Naruto. So many curved things are obviously not suitable for Naruto Uzumaki's brain to process. Shaking his head, Naruto Uzumaki took out a kunai and held it in his hand, and asked, all in all, the current senior is an enemy, right? Holding the grass pheasant sword in one hand, Natsuki nodded and said, it's the enemy. Episode 66. Phew. A strong wind blew through, and Natsuki's robe was hunting, and his eyes looked at the medicine master on the opposite side, as well as the big snake pill that sneered in the distance. Click click. Taking a step, Orochimaru came over and looked at Natsuki. Friend Kuin, we meet again even if it was me. I didn't expect you to really come alone, and I was really relieved this time you don't have Kakashi as a teammate. Stopping, Orochimaru glanced at the medicine master who had retreated to his side. And I have trusted subordinates to help. The situation has been reversed. Now it is 2 against 1. Friend Kuin, what are you going to do? After all, I'm not a good person, and you still have 2 oil bottles by your side. Hearing Orochimaru's words, Natsuki grinned and reached out to press Naruto Uzumaki's shoulder. I said, are you too confident? Don't underestimate it. Konoha Shinobi. Konoha Shinobu fights pots and pans. Konoha Shinobu fights and destroys the world. This is common sense. Orochimaru and Yakushi had not reacted yet, but Naruto Uzumaki's face showed a smile. Hey, my friend is right, don't underestimate me. These words made Natsuki glance at Naruto Uzumaki speechlessly, and spoke. Nope Naruto, you misunderstood, I didn't mean you, but myself. With a stiff face, Naruto Uzumaki turned his head and stared at the two of Orochimaru and Yakushi, not speaking, obviously choked by Natsuki's words. At this moment, Tsunade, who was blocked by Natsuki and Naruto Uzumaki, had already stood up. With anger on his face, Tsunade spoke. You two get out of the way, my life is yours. Bang. A large hole was stepped on in the ground, and Tsunade was the first to kill it. Xiaomu's face was stunned, and his right hand was on the grass pheasant sword. Naruto, protect Tsunade-sama, hand over Orochimaru to me. Sting. After saying that, Xiaomu's body burst out of Lei Dun chakra, and his eyes locked on the big snake pill. Lei Dun Lei instantaneous. Xiaomu's thunder instantaneous technique, different from ordinary physical instantaneous techniques and some special instantaneous techniques, although the voice of thunder instantaneous technique is somewhat loud, but his unparalleled speed is enough to make up for these defects. First come, first come. At the moment of his move, Natsuki's figure crossed Tsunade, bringing a violent wind. This little ghost so fast. A flash of thunder flashed at the corner of Tsunade's eyes, and Natsuki had already passed her, and this terrifying speed made Tsunade's face look confused. Swish. There was no time to pay attention to Tsunade's reaction, and Natsuki's figure directly killed in front of the big snake pill and shot directly. One knife flow, thunder pull out the knife and slash. Choke. Drawing the sword quickly, Lei Dun chakra condensed on the grass pheasant sword, and the separation speed of the blade and the scabbard reached the limit. Zhing! Brilliant knife light explodes. This knife slashed at the big snake pill with great speed, and at the same time, it also included the medicine master pocket beside him into the attack range. For the speed of Natsuki's attack, Orochimaru had obviously expected it for a long time. Therefore, he had already been guarded, and the moment Xiaomu killed, his figure retreated sharply and directly opened the distance between him and Xiaomu. Ha! Opening his mouth, Orochimaru's mouth spit out his weapon, the grass pheasant sword, the Sora no Takedeo. The cold light flashed, and it came directly towards Xiaomu cave. In the face of the attack of the big snake pill, Natsuki, whose face remained unchanged, suddenly looked at the medicine master who had just exited the range of his sword and slashing attack, and then took the opportunity to prepare to attack him. Huh. With a cold smile, Xiaomu's gaze carried a trace of cold killing intent. Stupid, said coldly, on the grass pheasant sword in Xiaomu's hand, there was a flash of thunder chakra. One knife flow, 3 cuts. Zheng. The sword light crisscrossed, and the grass pheasant sword in Xiaomu's hand wielded 3 swords, and the 3 sword lights directly enveloped the medicine master's pocket, as if it was a fierce beast that chose to devour people, and wanted to swallow him directly into his belly. Oops. Medicine master pocket's face showed a terrified color. Watching Xiaomu's knife slash towards him, the breath of death instantly almost completely swallowed medicine master pocket. Poof. 3 blood arrows flew into the air and fell to the ground, and the body of the medicine master was violently chopped out. Without catching up and directly asking for the medicine master's life, after Xiaomu cut out San, there was no pause, his body spun, turned around, and the grass pheasant sword in his hand was held in his hand. Bite. A spark bloomed, and the grass pheasant sword in Natsuki's hand opened the empty sword of the big snake pill. Swish. At the moment when the empty sword was opened, the figure of the big snake pill had already killed in front of Natsuki's body and kicked towards Xiaomu. Faced with this kick, Xiaomu was not afraid at all, and his face had an icy color. Konoha thunder whirlwind. Sting. Boom. Bathed in Lei Dun chakra, Natsuki's figure rotated and jumped, dodging this kick of the big snake pill, and under the stimulation of Lei Dun chakra, this kick made a sonic boom roundhouse kick that accurately hit the big snake pill. Bang. Swoosh boom. The kick that gathered speed and strange power directly kicked the big snake pill out like a high-speed cannonball, and after smashing several huge stones, it was embedded in a boulder like a dead body. Ahem, so strong. Coughing loudly and loudly, Orochimaru spoke. A crack appeared on the skin of his face, revealing the face of the woman below, and a pair of snake eyes looked at Xiaomu deadly. After the exchange just now, he knew that his current self would never be Natsuki's opponent. Now there is a fundamental difference from the first meeting. Calmly retracted his feet, looking at the miserable appearance of the big snake pill, Xiaomu's face had a sneer. And you who have lost your hands and cannot unleash ninjutsu, don't even have half of your strength, do you think you can win me just by physical skills? Sorry, so delusional, compared to ninjutsu and illusion, my physical skills are the pinnacle. Swish. Xiaomu's voice fell, and a figure instantly arrived in front of the big snake pill. I saw that the medicine master was pale, with a knife on his left shoulder to his right waist, his right shoulder to his left waist, and his face, blood gurgling, and even his forehead was split. Seriously injured state. This kind of medicine master's pocket, seeing Xiaomu's eyelids jump, his face instantly solemn. I didn't expect that under that sword, you would be able to survive amazing strength and vitality. Airplanes. The grass pheasant sword in his hand turned, and Xiaomu's face was filled with terrifying killing intent. This next knife will kill you. With a gloomy smile, the medicine master's pale face showed a sneer. Is it really good to do this? Friend Kuan, why don't you look behind you? Browning, Natsuki turned his head and looked behind him. I saw Tsunade huddled in one place trembling, Naruto Uzumaki blocking in front of her, and a huge psychic snake was looking at the two. The moment Natsuki turned his head, the psychic serpent slaughtered directly towards Tsunade and Naruto Uzumaki. Episode 67. Trouble. Xiaomu's brows furrowed, and a terrifying thunder light erupted on his body. Lei Dun Lei instantaneous technique. Sting. Xiaomu's figure instantly turned into thunder and lightning, rushed into the air, and killed the psychic snake at great speed. Click. The grass pheasant sword in his hand had been sheathed, and Natsuki held the hilt, and a dazzling light lit up in his eyes. One knife flow, one knife. Chokshun. A terrifying blade light lit up, attracting the attention of both Naruto Uzumaki below and Tsunade, who was in a state of fear of blood. Zhing. Poof. After the sound of the knife groan, the huge snake head of the psychic snake was directly cut off by a knife from 7 inches. Without any resistance at all, and directly died and the snake blood sprayed. Boom. Before the snake's head landed, it directly disappeared into a cloud of white smoke together with the entire body of the big snake, and the body returned to the Dragon Earth cave in the psychic realm. Snap. Falling from the air to the ground, standing in front of Naruto Uzumaki and Tsunade, Natsuki turned his head sharply and looked in the direction where Orochimaru and Yakushi were just now. Escaped. Unlike Uchiha Itachi and Dry Persimmon Oni who chose to leave without intention, this time the big snake pill and the medicine master pocket did not escape the benefits at all, so they escaped, because they were in the hands of Natsuki, and they could not escape a single silk benefit. Ran away? Xiaomu's face showed a helpless color, and he spoke. This time it's time to let the tiger return to the mountain. Click. Putting the sword back into its sheath and placing the Kusanagi sword behind him, Natsuki turned his head to look at Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto, are you alright? Naruto Uzumaki's body was also stained with a trace of blood, and the forehead guard on his forehead was knocked away. In this way, it was clear that Naruto Uzumaki and Yakushi had fought and did not take advantage. However, compared to the dying state in the original book, Naruto is really much better now. Nope, I'm fine, but Tsunade-in-law. Naruto Uzumaki turned his head and looked at Tsunade with a worried expression. I don't know how, just now, Tsunade's mother-in-law situation is very wrong. Frowning, Natsuki looked at Tsunade's trembling appearance, and also had some headaches. Tsunade's fear of blood bleeding has not been solved, and Tsunade like this, there is still some lack of enlightenment. It's just that he doesn't know how to explain this to Naruto Uzumaki. Tsunade-sama. Natsuki crouched in front of Tsunade and spoke. I've heard about your situation. Please cheer up. Now Konoha needs you. Everyone needs you. So cheer up a little. Hokage's dream. Deep in your heart, and whatever. After speaking, Natsuki glanced at Naruto Uzumaki, and after his eyes signaled for him to come and leave, he simply stepped aside and quietly waited for Tsunade to recover. Natsuki had just taken a few steps away when Tsunade's voice sounded again. Naruto, I ask you again, why do you necessarily want to be a Hokage? With a hint of light in his eyes, Tsunade looked at Naruto Uzumaki in front of him. Stunned for a moment, Naruto Uzumaki's face suddenly became serious, and he spoke. Because of Hokage, it's my dream. Once again, he received a firm answer, and a smile appeared on Tsunade's face, and the trembling on his body began to converge slightly. Seeing this scene, Xiaomu sighed in his heart. It's worthy of being the first person in the mouth. Looking at the dramas and the memories of the previous life, the king with his mouth is undoubtedly Naruto Uzumaki. Uzumaki Naruto's mouth is really strong. Whoops. At this time, the figures of Zelaya and Shizun appeared here. The two of them finally arrived. Tsunade-sama. Seeing Tsunade, Shizun's face changed, and he quickly ran in front of Tsunade. Are you alright? Standing up propped up, Tsunade waved his hand and said, Mute, don't worry, I'm fine. Seeing Tsunade like this, Jiraiya also breathed a long sigh of relief. To be honest, after Natsuki and Naruto left, he only took a slight break and set off directly, but because he didn't have the same powerful perception as Natsuki, he didn't rush here at the first time. Friend, Zelai also looked at Xiaomu sincerely, and said with a smile, this time you have worked hard. Without you, there is a high probability that something will happen. Smiling, Natsuki waved his hand, held his head in both hands, and walked towards the direction of Short Book Street. The next thing is basically nothing to do without him. Looking at Natsuki's back, Jiraiya had a smile on his face and didn't say anything. We'll be on the way to the Short Book Street. System, open the warehouse and I'll take a look. Natsuki said in his heart. The system's card warehouse opens, and 3 purple cards and 1 gold card remain in the warehouse. Purple cards are general, golden thousand hand fairy body cards? Natsuki pinched his chin, his eyes within different colors. At this moment, my chakra and vitality are probably the limit of the limit. As for whether after obtaining the thousand-hand immortal human body, he would be qualified to develop the Mudun blood succession limit, this Xiaomu did not know, and did not want to bother to develop the Mudun blood succession limit. When the evolution of the reincarnation eye is completed, the 6 realms will be in place in one step. Isn't he fragrant? Why so hard? Since his family knows his own family affairs, Xiaomu knows very well that his talent is completely the kind of garbage, and it is too reluctant to develop the blood succession limit of this level of Muduan, and it is definitely half the effort. If that's the case, why waste this time? I am fortunate to gain it, but I am to lose my life. For Muduan's attitude towards the blood succession limit, Xiaomu is only such a one. System, fuse cards. There was no one left and right, and Xiaomu was not worried about being detected, and directly chose to fuse. Integration begins. Airplanes. A huge vitality burst out from Xiaomu's body, completely making up for the slight consumption he had just had after the great battle. At the same time, his chakra once again grew a lot. Natsuki, who was originally not short of blue and blood, has now begun to develop towards the super boss. Blood cow, big blue bottle. This feeling, it's great. With a refreshing feeling on his face, Xiaomu spoke. Now I only need to wait for my reincarnation eye to evolve successfully, and then wait for my body to grow naturally. At most 15 or 16 years old, my strength is to stand at the peak of the ninja world and become a ceiling-level boss. Boom. Pinching his hand, the bones clattered, and Natsuki spoke. Right now, the only thing I want is the 9 tails. Naruto Uzumaki's half of the 9-tailed chakra can provide combat chakra and protection for the Ninja Alliance, and if the 9 tails are completely embodied, I am afraid that it will not be much weaker than the 10-tailed chakra alone. As for the 10-tailed thing, it's still too ugly. Episode 68. The next day, around 10 o'clock in the morning, Natsuki followed Jiraiya and Tsunade, left the Short Book Street, and embarked on the journey back to Konoha. Although there were some changes, Tsunade became the 5th generation of Hokage, and listening to what Shizun and Jiraiya said, her fear of blood flow seems to have begun to improve, and I believe that it will not be long before she can become the heroic medical holy hand Tsunadeheim again. Although according to Tsunade, some medical ninjas now have surpassed her in medical strength, but Natsuki knows that this is completely Tsunade's modesty. She was abandoned for 20 years. After standing still for 20 years, the medical level is still one of the best in the entire ninja world. In this case, after Tsunade recovers, he will definitely become the best medical ninja, and there is no one. After all, with 1,000 hands immortal body, the huge chakra and vigorous vitality make Tsunade's healing effect far beyond others. After 3 days of stop and go, Natsuki and his group were already able to see the gate of Konoha from a distance. Hinata. From a distance, Natsuki saw Hinata waiting in front of Konoha's gate. The news of his return, yesterday, he used Ninja Eagle to inform Hinata. Cell phone. The strong wind stirred, and Natsuki's figure had disappeared in place, leaving one afterimage after another, rushing directly to Hinata in front of Konoha's door, with a deep longing color on his face. In front of Konoha's doorway, Hinata looked at the road ahead with a look of surprise. She also saw Natsuki. Swish. An afterimage flashed, and Natsuki's figure appeared in front of Hinata, opened his hands, and hugged her. Hinata. Seeing Natsuki appear, he opened his hands, and Hinata's longing in his heart could no longer be suppressed. Natsuki-kun. As if it was, breast swallow, returning to the nest, Hinata rushed directly into Natsuki's arms. Her little head was buried in Natsuki's mouth. Her eyes were closed, and she breathed a familiar taste, which made her heart calm for a while. Fascinated in Natsuki's arms for a while, Hinata raised his head and looked at Natsuki. Natsuki-kun, welcome back. Gently kissing Hinata's forehead, Natsuki said with a gentle face, I'm back, Hinata. The two looked at each other and smiled, and the atmosphere was quite good. It didn't take long. Yo friend, is this little girl your girlfriend? What a young man. The four of them had already arrived next to Natsuki and Hinata, and Tsunade couldn't help but smile when he saw Hinata and Natsuki. Letting go of Hinata, who was shy again, Natsuki glanced at Tsunade, who was watching the play, with some helplessness. Tsunade-sama, you are also an elderly person, why are you still like a child? Don't look at you like this, now you are also the 5th generation of Konoha's Hokage, mature a little. After speaking, Natsuki directly pulled Hinata and walked into the village, talking all the way about what happened in the past few days, all the way towards the village. Now back, other things, don't worry about him. Jiraiya and Tsunade will handle everything, including his A-grade pit daddy mission. Of course, the task reward is definitely not less. Looking at Xiaomu Shiran's departure, Tsunade's face was angry, and the corners of his mouth twitched. This kid is really uncute, what's wrong with me like this? Hearing Tsunade's words, Jiraiya smiled awkwardly. Well, the most important thing now is to go to the elders. Let's go. 5 generations of Hokage. Hearing this, Tsunade's face turned pale, and he also nodded. Let's go. Training ground number 3. After returning home and telling his mother that he was safe, Natsuki came here with some small snacks, dated Hinata, leaned together to rest, and talked about what had happened in the past few days. Hinata. Looking at Hinata, Natsuki reached out and pinched her little chong nose. Thank you for going to accompany your mother often these days. Natsuki's heart was so satisfied with what Hinata had done in the past few days. Since Hinata met his mother during the Chunin exam, as long as he was not in the village on a mission, Hinata would go to his house every day, help his mother do some housework, accompany his mother, and then return home. It can be said that he has done even better than his son. After all, as a son, although he knows that his mother is hard, but there are some hardships, his mother will definitely not tell him, but Hinata, who has a similar personality, can make his mother talk a little bit. So Natsuki's heart really loves Hinata more and more. The best time, meeting the best you, between him and Hinata, is the best love in Natsuki's heart. I just did what I was supposed to do. Hinata had a satisfied smile on his face, and said, and my mother is also very good to me. I like Natsuki-kun's home. Although it is a single-parent family, the atmosphere of Natsuki's family is obviously much better than that of the huge Hyuga family. Satisfies all Hinata's beautiful fantasies about family, especially her mother is very gentle, and Hinata can feel her kindness every bit. Although her mother is also very good, the person in charge of the Hyuga clan is Hinata. To be honest, Hinata's mother, many things, cannot speak, cannot make decisions, can only watch. This is probably the tragedy of the big family. Hearing Hinata's words, he reached out and took Hinata into his arms, and Natsuki had a smile on his face. No matter what, I still have to thank you. How to say it? Hinata's existence is like a secret medicine to relieve stress, so that some of the pressure in Natsuki's heart that cannot be said has been well relieved. And in this case, he naturally has to thank Hinata. Thinking of Hinata following him and doing every bit of it, Natsuki's gaze towards this little Nico became more and more gentle. Deeply sniffing Hinata's hair, Natsuki felt the peace in his heart. Now such a day is what he is after. Who let Natsuki, himself an unambitious guy, now like this, it's already good. Leaning into Natsuki's arms, Hinata's face was colored with happiness. Hinata. Natsuki spoke softly and called Hinata. With a red face, Hinata raised his head, met Natsuki's gaze, and asked, what's wrong? Natsuki-kun. A smile appeared on Xiaomu's face, and he said softly, the scent of your body is really great, great. Reaching out and pinching Hinata's little face, Natsuki spoke. Hinata, I like it the most. Hearing this, Hinata is ashamed, astringent, endless. Smiling, Natsuki did not overdo it, slowly closed his eyes, and soon there was a sound of steady breathing, and Natsuki fell asleep like this. Seeing Natsuki fall asleep, Hinata's face was full of gentle colors. Gently reaching out and brushing the broken hair in front of Natsuki's forehead, Hinata spoke. Me too, Natsuki-kun, I like it the most. Thanks to fate. In the best time, meet the best of you. Episode 69. Time flies quickly. In the blink of an eye, a week passed. Because of the death of the third generation of Hokage, and the return of the fifth generation Hokage to the village, the transfer of various powers, and the succession of Tsunade's Hokage, etc., the whole of Konoha is quite busy. Although it is very busy, this busyness is full of vitality waiting to be revived. Walking on the street, you can see any person, you can see that the other person's expression shows the new hope and enthusiastic attitude to life in the village. These are all things that the three generations of Hokage did not have when they were still there. Therefore, Konoha has long been waiting for the fifth generation Hokage to take the throne. Under this hustle and bustle, almost all of the upper shinobi are constantly carrying out tasks, and only half of the village is left to prepare the Hokage succession ceremony, as well as maintain the daily defense and the operation of the village. As for the lower ninjas, they are led by the other half of the middle ninja, constantly performing D and C level tasks. The shinobi newcomers take over the task of rebuilding the village and carry out tasks in the village. Everyone was busy, including Hinata's 8th class, as well as the 7th and 10th classes, who were also involved in the task of rebuilding the village. In this case, only Natsuki, quite laid back. Natsuki's house, in the small courtyard. Today's sun is just right, and Natsuki is sitting on the corridor of his house, with a comfortable expression on his face. This is what a real life. Don't think about the mission, don't worry about your future, don't think about anything. These comfortable days have almost made Natsuki's body rest, but if you can, please make him a big salted fish. This kind of life can only be in the last few days. While saying this, Natsuki turned his head and looked at the wall of his small yard. Captain Uetsuki, is there something going on? Swish. A figure in the dark part appeared on the wall, looking at Natsuki. That hair color and breath are all proof that this dark part that came as Natsuki's previous guidance on Shinobi Yushien. Friend Kun. Yushien looked at Xiaomu and said, Naruto-sama let you go over. Standing up, Xiaomu looked at Yushien and asked suspiciously, Captain Yu, is there any mission? Do you need me to bring my gear with you? Shaking his head, Yushien spoke. No need to bring equipment. Just pass like this, then, my friend, hurry up, I take my leave. Swish. The figure flashed, and Yushien disappeared directly into the wall, and left quickly. Xiaomu was slightly stunned, and had some doubts. It won't be a ninja level, right? However, this kind of thing is not a critical event, there should be no need for this, just check it out. After turning around and returning to the house, after changing into a dress, Natsuki went out. Today he was alone at home, and his mother was invited by her friend to help, so she was not at home. It didn't take long for Natsuki to arrive at the Hokage building. Bang bang. Outside Tsunade's office door, Natsuki directly raised his hand and knocked on the door. Come in. Tsunade's voice came from the office. Click. Natsuki pushed open the door and walked in, and at a glance, he saw Tsunade, who was reading a book at his desk. Tsunade-sama, I'm coming. Hearing Natsuki's voice, Tsunade raised his head and looked at him. Oh? It's coming pretty fast, friend. Closing the book on the desk, Tsunade looked at Natsuki with a smile on his face and spoke. I thought it would be a while before you came back. After all, you've probably been resting lately, right? Every day, I either stay at home or go on a date with the little girl of Hinata's family, and life is delicious. With a somewhat embarrassed face, Natsuki smiled and said, Okay, life is passable. Hearing this, Tsunade shook his head and smiled. She is very satisfied with Natsuki. After all, no matter how you say it, Natsuki saved her. She has a good personality, strong strength, and excellent performances, and she is the only Hokage candidate seriously trained by the 3 generations of Hokage. The only drawback may be this personality, which is too lazy and leisurely, and there is no youthful momentum at all. But that's understandable. After all, he is a genius, and he has a cute girlfriend who has a complete relationship and a childhood sweetheart, and his life is almost married and has a child, and he can be perfect. In this case, it is normal to develop this lazy and leisurely personality, but with Tsunade's understanding of Natsuki, once he is really needed, Natsuki is completely the kind of existence that is relieved to boldly give his back to him. This can be summed up from what she recently heard from Naruto Uzumaki and others, and the evaluation of Natsuki. After laughing, Tsunade's face became serious. Friend, do you remember that A-level mission of yours? Raising his eyebrows, Natsuki didn't expect Tsunade to say this. After a deep groan and a nod, Natsuki spoke. Of course I remember it. So, a scroll was thrown directly to Natsuki and grabbed by him. Tsunade crossed his hands and said with a serious face, In this scroll, there is detailed information about the mission, and after you read it, you will completely destroy it. Glancing at the scroll in his hand, Natsuki nodded and said, I see, thank you Naruto-sama. Natsuki knew that this scroll was an explanation given to him by Jiraiya and Tsunade instead of the village, even if the strength that Natsuki showed was not wrong in the battle of the short book street to crush the big snake pill and the medicine master. But the meaning of that task is still as Natsuki said. Let him die. It's just that the person behind this task completely miscalculated Natsuki's strength. Friend, in view of your continued activity since graduation, and your achievements in the war of the previous Chunin exam. After saying the business, Tsunade's face, with a smile, spoke. I decided to give you a reward, within my power, whether it is ninjutsu or special ninjutsu, you can choose the same. Hearing Tsunade's words, Natsuki's eyes lit up. Really fake? Nodding, Tsunade spoke. Really? After thinking for a moment, Natsuki looked at Tsunade and spoke. I want a ninjutsu. Raising his eyebrows, Tsunade looked at Natsuki and held his head and said, yes, which ninjutsu do you want? I guess the ninjutsu you want must not be that kind of ordinary ninjutsu. Nodding, Xiaomu's face showed an expectant color, and he directly spoke. I want to fly the Thunder God technique. His face was stunned. Tsunade looked at Natsuki, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Flying Thunder God technique? I said, little ghost, do you know what this technique represents? Nodding, of course, Natsuki spoke. The first speed in the ninja world, right? I know. Episode 70. This Flying Thunder God technique. Hearing Natsuki's words, Tsunade said with a serious face, S-class time and space ninjutsu developed by the second generation of Mechage, and the fourth generation of Mechage is well known in the ninja world with this technique, and has won the title of Golden Flash, and is also known as the first divine speed. His gaze fell on Natsuki's body, and Tsunade advised. Friend, I said bluntly, the reason why this Flying Thunder God art is only used by 2 people is because if you want to learn the Flying Thunder God technique, you need some special conditions, which you may not be able to achieve. No, I've learned that it's just not good to show it in front of the public. Hearing Tsunade's words, Natsuki's heart spoke, but on the surface, he didn't care. It's okay, I'll give it a try. If it succeeds, my speed will be much faster, and I will be able to return to the village quickly. So, with some curiosity, Tsunade looked at Natsuki and asked, how? Shaking his head, Natsuki said directly, ahem, being able to get back to Hinata's side faster. With a straight face, Xiaomu said with a serious face, Tsunade-sama, I will choose the Flying Thunder God technique, is it okay? No, forget it, I have no interest in practicing other ninjutsu by the way. It would be even better if Tsunade-sama could have Hinata learn Tsunade-sama's psychic arts with you. About letting Hinata learn psychic arts, Natsuki thought for a long time. First of all, although the combat effectiveness of slugs is not high among the 3 major psychic beasts, it has excellent medical capabilities and can also achieve long-range communication. For Hinata, it's still very good, and Natsuki himself wants to sign a contract. It is simple, make a splash. Hearing Natsuki's words, Tsunade was stunned, and then glanced at Natsuki speechlessly. There is no problem with flying thunder. As for psychic arts, friend, if you worship me as a teacher, I can teach you 2 together. Of course, the little girl of the Hyuga family, if you are also willing to worship me as a teacher, I can also teach her. Looking up Natsuki's information, I knew that Natsuki did not have a formal teacher. Hearing Natsuki's words at this moment, Tsunade couldn't help but understand some careful thoughts. After all, Natsuki is a super genius. If he could be her disciple, it would be a genius disciple who had grown up in vain. Hinata, on the contrary, is incidental. Tsunade is now going to the position of the 5th generation Hokage, and naturally needs some support. After all, she had been gone for too long, and there was nothing left at Konoha's foundation. If the Hyuga clan could take Natsuki and Hinata as an opportunity to go further, why not? Yes, Xiaomu nodded directly, without hesitation. Tsunade-sensei. Hitting the snake with the stick, Xiaomu directly changed his words. It's very good to worship Tsunade. One of the legendary 3 ninjas, Tsunade's disciple, is very useful in the ninja world, in Konoha, and even much better than the disciples of the 3 generations of Hokage. After all, Tsunade is a medical saint, and the ninja world is largely to give face. The importance of medical ninjas in the ninja world has long been clear after 1 or 2 or 3 ninja world wars. So there is nothing to hesitate. Of course, the main reason why Natsuki agreed to come down was Hinata. Having a teacher of the 5th generation Hokage, plus his boyfriend who is a candidate for Hokage, is of course a lot better. In addition, there are deeper reasons. In this way, Xiaomu's body has formed a huge relationship bond and also formed a community of interests. The 5 generations of Hokage, the Hyuga clan, plus Natsuki's usual accumulation of relationships are superimposed. That's a huge force. In the past, the 3 families of Inuga Butterfly may have been just juniors and Natsuki standing in line, but when Natsuki became Tsunade's disciples, plus the Hyuga clan, they would naturally know how to take sides. Although there is a smell of profit in it, in this world, Natsuki must learn to manage these things. The adult world is a little dirty, but this is the reality. To live comfortably, Natsuki needs to run his own interest group a little. Simply fancy Natsuki's talent? This kind of reason, it's almost the same to deceive an idiot like Naruto Uzumaki. Teacher? Hearing Natsuki directly call himself a teacher, Tsunade's face showed an emotional smile. Little ghost, don't worship the teacher so simply, at least invite me to your house for a meal. Nodding, Natsuki spoke. Yes, tonight, my mother and I are waiting for Tsunade-sensei to come over. Hearing this, Tsunade nodded and said, that's good, don't worry, I will definitely go tonight. By the way, and Silent will also be together. Don't forget Mute. Xiaomu smiled slightly and spoke. Of course you won't forget it. Speaking of which, my family has not been a guest for a long time. Although I live quite happily with my mother, it is also a fact that Natsuki's family walks tea and cold. Don't think that Natsuki has become a genius that people praise. Just what? This situation has not changed until he has completely become a strong man. Hearing Natsuki's words, Tsunade was slightly stunned, and then a gentle smile appeared on his face. Then tonight, you have to entertain the teacher and me. Nodding, Natsuki spoke. Of course. Half an hour later, Natsuki carried 2 scrolls in his pocket and left the Hokage building with a satisfied face. The goals he wants to achieve have been overachieved. Flying Thunder God's art. Help Hinata find a master. He himself assembled a bond of relationships. What a win-win situation. Go find Hinata, such an important matter. You still have to take Hinata with you. After placing the 2 scrolls, Natsuki headed towards the Hinata family. Now Hinata, occasionally able to go to Natsuki's house for dinner. The difference between the two is an engagement banquet, and there is a wedding, and the two can be regarded as cultivating positive results. Of course, if you really want to get engaged, it is estimated that you will have to wait a year or 2, and if you get married, I am afraid that you will not be able to do it until you are about 20 years old. 20 years old. It's still early, at least 8 years away, and there are times when Natsuki wants time to pass faster. This little child's body, many things, can't do it. It's quite uncomfortable. That night, Xiaomu's house was very lively after a long absence. Hinata helped her mother prepare a sumptuous dinner, and around 6 o'clock, Tsunade arrived with Shizune and the two. The matter of Natsuki worshipping Master Tsunade spread all over the place, and soon spread in Konoha. After all, as the 5th generation Hokage who is about to take office, Tsunade's attention is still unusually high. In addition, Natsuki is also an extremely outstanding genius ninja in the new generation, such a master-apprentice combination. Many people in Konoha are happy to hear and hear.